Hey, it's Wendy here from the Nomadic Vegan. And in case we're meeting for the first time and you want to know who I am and what I do, I travel all around the world uncovering vegan treasures in the most unlikely places. And my mission is to show you that you can be vegan anywhere and spread compassion everywhere. So if you want more travel tips, restaurant reviews, lots of other info about vegan travel, you can check out my website at thenomadicvegan.com. You can also download a free copy of my ebook, 9 Steps for Easy Vegan Travel, and I will link to that in the description below. Today's video is a response video to episode 93 of Big Fat Vegan Radio. If you don't know Big Fat Vegan Radio, it's a podcast that is hosted by Laura Yaz and Ben Strothmann, a.k.a. LaBronx, the vegan drag queen. And in episode 93, the reason I'm doing this video is because at the end of that episode, Ben actually said that it has always been his dream that someone would create a video response to one of their episodes. So Ben, this is for you. I hope that I can make your dream come true today by sharing some of my thoughts on the episode and kind of continue the conversation. So episode 93 was titled Vegan Travel with Green Earth Travel, and it was an interview that Ben did with someone who's actually a friend of mine, Donna Zeigfinger, who runs the travel agency Green Earth Travel. And so it was a lot of fun listening to you guys talk about vegan travel. I will say I think maybe you got a little bit off topic because not all of it was specifically about vegan travel. Some of it was just about travel more generally. Now some of that was interesting to me too, particularly the story about what happened with United Airlines, where they had overbooked and decided to randomly force passengers off the plane, and they did it very violently. I hadn't heard that story before. I don't really watch a lot of mainstream news, and I don't live in the U.S., and so that just hadn't come across my dashboard yet. So I do want to thank you for pointing out that story to me, which was really horrific and disturbing. I would have liked to have heard you guys talk a little bit more specifically about travel as a vegan, though, because I do think that there's a whole lot to talk about there, and so I thought that I would add a few thoughts. So in the episode, Donna talked about how she's been vegan since 1983, which is really impressive. Way to go, Donna. And she talked about how vegan travel has gotten so much easier over the decades that she's been vegan. So nowadays you have cruise ships and spas and other kind of travel industry companies that are really catering to vegans, and they're creating entire vegan menus, which is really fantastic. And then she contrasted that with the situation in the 80s and 90s. She talked about a particular trip that she had made to Germany where it had been really difficult to find food, and she'd had to just go to a Chinese restaurant because she knew that she wasn't going to find any vegan options in a typical German restaurant. I think that's a great piece of advice, Donna, and I'll get back to that in just a minute. But I wanted to point out that, yeah, Germany, does have a really strong vegan movement right now. Berlin, in particular, is known as a vegan mecca. It's definitely the most vegan-friendly city in Europe, and I think it perhaps vies for the position of most vegan-friendly city in the world. And the other large cities in Germany have lots of great options too. But, when you travel outside those big cities to smaller cities and towns and villages, then you'll still run across a lot of people who have no idea what vegan means, and you need to be prepared for that. The same case in Switzerland. I lived in Switzerland for 6 years. Just recently moved from there to Portugal, but I'm actually back in Geneva right now, so I'm making this video from Switzerland. And in the time that I lived here, I traveled all over the country, did lots of hiking, so I was often up in the mountains and in some really remote villages where people have no idea what the word vegan means, and the local cuisine is not very vegan friendly. It's, as you can imagine, mostly based on cheese and meat, and at the same time, I never really had a problem. I was always able to find vegan food, sometimes really delicious food and sometimes just something to fill my stomach, but I never had a problem traveling as a vegan in Switzerland. not just Switzerland. Another example I could give is Malta, which is the most recent country I visited, new country for me that I visited just a few weeks ago. Malta was actually my 100th country, so that was a milestone for me. And before I traveled there, I did some reading up, and I read lots of complaints from vegans complaining about Malta, saying that Valletta, the Maltese capital, was the worst European capital for vegan food. And I guess that is probably true if you're judging it by the number of vegan and vegetarian restaurants, because Malta doesn't have very many of those. I think there are 3 fully vegetarian restaurants and no fully vegan restaurants that I'm aware of in the whole country. But at the same time, I had some really amazing meals during the time that I was in Malta. Some of them were at a vegetarian restaurant. I went to just one vegetarian restaurant called the Grassy Hopper, and they do make delicious food there. But then I also had lots of other great meals in mainstream restaurants where they just serve typical Maltese food. And that was because I had done some research beforehand and I had uncovered those local vegan dishes, so I knew what to ask for. Now, there are some countries that really don't have very many local vegan dishes. Switzerland is a good example of that. Probably Germany, France, or at least some parts of France are other good examples of that. And that's where Donna's Chinese restaurant suggestion comes into play. But it's not just Chinese. There are lots of other ethnic cuisines. Really, all of the most popular world cuisines that first come to your mind are very vegan friendly, and these cuisines are actually really plant-based when you get to the heart of it. So in addition to Chinese, you have Italian cuisine, Indian cuisine, Thai cuisine, Vietnamese, Middle Eastern, Ethiopian. Now, some of these are more widespread than others. You're not necessarily going to find an Ethiopian restaurant or a Vietnamese restaurant in a small village, but you will find probably at least one of these cuisines pretty much anywhere you go in the world these days. So they're a really good tool to have to know, okay, I can walk into any Italian restaurant and these are the dishes that I can look for in the menu, these are the questions that I can ask. And I feel like this is a skill and a knowledge base that a lot of vegans are missing, and that's why they're finding vegan travel difficult. So I actually wrote a whole book on this topic, which is going to be released soon, and it's called Veggie Planet: Uncover the Vegan Treasures Hiding in Your Favorite World Cuisines. So Ben, I would love to continue this conversation with you and with your listeners. So if you would like to have me on the show, I would love to share with you some of what I've learned traveling around the world as a vegan and some of the vegan treasures that I've discovered in even the most unlikely places. So if you would like to chat about it, then just get in touch and we will make it happen. Oh, and one last thing I forgot to say, I don't think I said. So Big Fat Vegan Radio has a channel here on YouTube, but it's not really videos, it's just the audio of the podcast with just an image there, the thumbnail image. But Ben, in his alter ego as Honey LaBronx, does have a channel, which is a vegan cooking channel. So if you would like to see a drag queen cooking vegan food, it's a lot of fun. I will link to Honey LaBronx's channel in the description as well. All right, take care. Bye.